Obviously, there were these adverts a few weeks ago, some pretty big adverts in a number of the UK national papers, calling for the end of discrimination to about your 200,000 members throughout the UK. Just first and foremost, can you tell me, have your members encountered forms of discrimination at times in the island?
Yes, I personally have.
What type, for example?
That people making allegations, insinuations, or merely denigrating the organisation and suggesting that we were not suitable people to either hold public office or to be engaged by government or local authority departments professionally.
On what basis?
Simply on the basis that we were Freemasons, and there lies the anomaly.
The people say there's no smoke without fire. This reputation of Freemasonry, it's the negatives of it. It stemmed from somewhere.
Yes. The secret society. Yes. So much so, so secretive that every Masonic building, and we have 4 on the Isle of Man, has a very significant sign outside. In addition to the words Masonic Hall, a square and compass, so the public know where Freemasons meet. Secret? Well, we have photographs of my predecessors and the Masons of the Isle of Man marching in full regalia, in procession, to lay foundation stones for public buildings that had been the recipient of Masonic money.
I'm sure your organisation has many values. It helps individuals in society at large. I mean, last year alone, I think the UK and the Channel Islands raised in the region of about £34 million for good causes. Do you know members who are reluctant to admit they're actually Masons for fear of retribution, suspicion, damage?
Yes, I do know.
In the Isle of Man?
Less frequently now, but there were people who believed, especially those who were employed in the public sector, because individuals, in my experience, were reprimanded for attending their office wearing a Masonic tie on 2 occasions that I'm aware of, because they had just attended a funeral of a fellow Freemason and hadn't had time to change the tie.
Do you know, I mean, I'm not talking about the argument it's a false religion steeped in witchcraft or any of that. I'm referring to that perception over the years, that those suggestions that members look after each other when they're in trouble, that there are, you know, you've heard the comments yourself that they're associated with secret handshakes, alleged corruption in the police and the judiciary. You've heard all that, of course. You have.
And recently, this is what elicited the response from our Grand Lodge in London. The allegations. Firstly, looking after each other. Well, that's quite true. It's not a perception.
Well, when they break the law? No,
not at all. We look after each other on the basis that we are a caring, compassionate fraternity. If a Mason were to break the law, he would not be a Mason for very long, because we have an internal disciplinary procedure which would require me, as the head of Freemasonry on the Isle of Man, to take immediate action.
Is it quite hurtful at times when a lot of this good work is not recognised?
It's hurtful.
Quite deflating.
Disillusioning. It's hurtful in as much as we encourage our members to give of their time, energy and money to help good causes. We don't collect on the streets. We don't have flag days. All funds raised by Freemasonry, and you've mentioned £33 million in the current year, all that money comes from Freemasons and their families. So, yes, if we're going to continue doing that, we don't want to bang a big drum on a street corner and profess how wonderful we are. But it does hurt to be accused of doing things which are underhand or nefarious.
Just finally, let me ask you, you're a member of the United Grand Lodge of England, aren't you? The governing body of Freemasonry in England and Wales, Isle of Man, Channel Islands. How do you deal with the level of prejudice? How do you dog this secret society tag and rebrand yourself? Obviously, attempts have been made before.
We haven't really attempted it, and it's not a rebranding exercise. I think the truth is we're probably no longer passive. One of the reasons that we have behaved the way we have was because in the 1930s, Freemasons were persecuted throughout the Second World War. In Hitler's Germany, something in the order of 250,000 German Freemasons were carted off to concentration camps, never to be seen again. In Italy, similar things happen. And in neutral Spain, there are records of people being suspected of being Freemasons, being shot in the street. And that level of persecution heightened the awareness in the UK. When Hitler's army landed on the Channel Islands, one of their first actions was to sack the Masonic Hall and to take the records of Freemasons' names and addresses. Now, at that time, it was logical to think that the next step would be to be on the British mainland. And our governing body, the Grand Lodge in London, said to Freemasonry, heads down, boys. This is going to happen. Well, sadly, for us, when 1945 came and went, nobody said to Grand Lodge, Hitler's not coming now, it's all right. And that little bit of protection then persisted. And unfortunately, we had thrown a veil of secrecy over ourselves, which subsequently we've endeavoured to lift, but the myths persist.